Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real-world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real cutting-edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. And today, my guest is on a mission to drastically improve the success rate of new businesses by teaching them the practical everyday things they need to know to build a sustainable business that survives the first 2 years and then goes on to thrive. So I'd like to introduce you to Tammy Johnston. She's the hold your hand and kick your ass business coach. She's been working with small businesses for over 20 years to help them build sustainable and successful businesses. Tammy believes that business done right, honestly, ethically, and morally has the power to make the world a better place for our customers, our families, and our communities. Now, she doesn't promise a magic bullet because there's no such thing, but she does teach all of the basic foundational skills you need to first survive and then thrive. She only deals in real, practical, put it to use training and advice that has been tested in battle. Tammy, I'm so glad to have you on the call today.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so when I read your application to be a guest on the podcast, it really stood out to me because I come from that background of being a small business, and I remember the days when I first started my first company, which was an IT business, of like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? So many things that I didn't know, and that I didn't know that I didn't know, and you kind of discover those, and it's like, oh man, those first couple of years can be really brutal. And when you're going out looking for help, a lot of times you're finding people who are like light years ahead of you, and the coaches and the consultants, like, they forgot where they came from and they don't know exactly to help you in those formation days. So your application really stood out to me, and I wanted to have you as a guest on today. But before we kind of dive into some of the things that you help businesses with, give us a little bit of your background. Like, how did you become this business coach that really focuses on helping small businesses first, have success in those 2 years?
Well, it's been a very long journey because I've been interested in business for my whole life. When I was a little kid, like people wanted, like girls were supposed to want to grow up to be actresses and dancers and singers and all this stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to get into business. And I grew up in rural Alberta, and business as I know it now basically did not exist. You had farmers, you had the few people that ran the stores in town, and that was about it. But I was always fascinated with it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, my background is in financial services. So I've been in
Okay.
financial services just past the 32-year mark. And when I was pushed to start my own business, I went, okay, I'm in a much better position than most people because of my background and all of the different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through so many struggles my first 2 years. Like it was really challenging.
Yeah.
And I started working with a lot of small business clients. And what I was discovering when I was working with them and going over their personal finances is they need a lot of help with their businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a greedy, motivated self interest to help them because broke people can't afford investments or insurance, which was the stuff that I got paid on. So
Mm-hmm.
I started helping them out because that was my background. Like back when I was employed, my job was to help the agents, how to help them with the marketing and figuring out their problems and helping them put their systems together and all of that wonderful fun stuff. So I took those things that I learned through my work and what I had learned on my own and studying and started helping them, and their businesses took off, and I started getting more and more referrals to other business owners and stuff. And I learned very quickly, okay, I need to start focusing a lot more on the small business stuff. So I created my first small business class. And I've worked with everybody from idea stage up to I've been successfully running my business for 35 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
But what I just was discovering is um, most businesses fail within the first 2 years. Like 90% do not make it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's not because there's a problem with the product or service or that the owner isn't working hard enough. It's their technicians. They technically know their product or service. Like you said, you start an IT business. They know
Hmm.
all about computers. They do, but they don't know anything about marketing. They don't know about systems. They don't know about how to set up their financials. They're getting their business advice from their broke ass friends and family who have never set foot in the arena. And
Right.
that's all the stuff that took them out. And I'm going, well, you can't have successful businesses if they don't survive the first 2 years. And I
Hmm.
go, if I could go back and talk to me 1 year before I started my business and go, okay, you need to start putting things together, and here's the stuff that you need to do. My first 2 years in business would have been a million times easier. And I'm one of the lucky people that survived it in an industry where no one wants to talk to you. If you want to clear a room, tell people you sell life insurance.
Right. Yeah. No, the first 2 years, I mean, a lot of people, they have a great idea. They've got
Mm-hmm.
a great business idea. It's a product or a service that, they know that people need.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking back at the days when I started, my IT business, it was like, okay, I've got a skill set
Mm-hmm.
fixing computers. People are always calling me, hey, can you help me, with this? And it's like, well, if they're going to call me, I'm going to make money at it.
Yep.
So why not start a business, right? But like you said, we're that tactician. We know all the technical ins and outs. And if I look at a lot of service-based businesses, especially, so you think, plumbers and electricians and heating services, all of these, smaller shops and things like that, they do a really good job at the work that they do. But if you peek behind the scenes, they're putting in enormous numbers of hours every week. They're struggling to get new clients or to maintain their existing client base, and just a whole host of problems because they don't understand what it takes to actually run a successful business. And so they're just kind of grasping at straws and trying to figure things out on their own.
Yeah, and another one that I've come across so many times, and another thing that helped me, I would have a lot of accountants send me their small business clients going, okay, they've got payroll on Friday. It's Monday. They have no money in the bank. Like, can you go smack them around a little bit? And so I would go through, and the first question I would ask them is, tell me about your invoicing. Like, how are you getting paid? And they kind of, well, we've been so busy working, I haven't sent an invoice in 3 months. Well, that would be the reason why you have no money in your account. Or they'll, well, my old boss was billing me out for $250 an hour and I was only getting paid 40. So I figured if I charged myself out for 80, I'd be making all this money. And they're going, when you help them figure out, okay, all the actual costs of running your business, it costs you $120 an hour just to keep the doors open. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going, oh, I guess that's why I don't have any money sticking around. And they just, like you said, they're technically brilliant in a lot of cases. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the business stuff, the things that actually props them up, they don't even know what they don't know, and that's what kills them. And I'm going, I can help you with that and make it so that you understand it. And you're not afraid of it, and
Mm-hmm.
let's survive and let's grow because you fail, it's not just you and your immediate family that suffers. It's your suppliers that have lost a good customer. It's your existing customers because you can't stake around and look after them after the fact. It's the community. It's everybody loses when a small business fails.
Yeah, and small businesses really are the lifeblood of our economies, right?
Yes.
And so it's really important for small business owners to be able to, overcome the obstacles. It's challenging being a small business owner, but it's so well worth it, especially when you can, fight through those obstacles and you can see the success on the other side. Now, I know that you've got 8 areas that you work with, and that all successful businesses need. And we're not going to be able to go deep in just the time that we have, in all of those areas. But I'd like to maybe pick out, like 3 or 4 of those that you feel are the most important that you work with small business owners on, especially in that first 2 years, and just kind of like, give some things that, our users can put to practice as they're listening to this episode. And then obviously, if they want to know what all the 8 things are, they can reach out to you. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'll let you kind of pick out, a couple that you really want to hone in on.
Well, I'll pick three.
Okay.
There is a reason why there's eight, but yes, we don't have that much time. But I'll say three. So especially for the new businesses, the first one I would say is, how are you setting up your day? Like what are you and your week and all of this stuff, what are you putting your time and attention and your energy into? Because when we work for somebody else, we have all these external things. Okay, these are your business hours, this is where you're going, this is what you're doing, this is who you're doing it for, and here's the requirements for doing it. So we just have to go and do it. When we are our own boss, when we own our own business, we have to determine what we're doing it, when we're doing it, how, who we're doing it for, how we're doing it, all of those things. And because people don't start off with the business knowledge. Like I've even worked with a lot of people that have went and gotten business degrees and said, I've learned more in your weekend class about how to actually run a business than my
Mm-hmm.
4-year degree. Not that they didn't learn great stuff in their degree, but
Sure.
it wasn't practical. It wasn't that, okay, how do you deal with the day to day? How do you deal with like real life?
Mm-hmm.
So having to learn, like you said, you're not chasing the shiny objects. You're not okay, I'm going to move this pile of papers over to this pile and all of the lovely busy work that makes people feel like they've accomplished something, but they're going as far as the hamster on the wheel. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how hard they put the effort in, they're not going to go anywhere because they have to get off the wheel and work on the stuff that actually matters. So that would be, I would say, the first one.
And now with that, I think, that's really important is honing in on what are the most valuable
Mm-hmm.
activities that we should be investing our time in. I know that, like for me, even over the past several weeks, as I've been working on a lot of different things and my to-do list seems to be growing exponentially longer, I'm having to prioritize, okay, is this a revenue generating activity? Or is this something that is going to help me build a solid foundation that is going to turn into revenue for me? And so, rather than just simply, saying, oh, I've marked 15 things off of my to-do list today because I love that dopamine, hit, right? But it's not, just saying, hey, I got 15 things done. It's did you get the three most important things that are going to move the needle in your business? Like you mentioned a while ago, like invoicing.
Yeah.
That the cash flow is important in business. That's a revenue generating activity. If you've done, if you've posted on social media and written emails and, whatever else that you've done, but you haven't sent out the invoices,
Mm-hmm.
did you really move the needle in your business, right?
Yep. So that would be the first one, and that's kind of like the base for everything because everything goes on top of that.
Yeah.
Marketing. Do you have like what is your marketing? Are you doing it consistently day in, day out? Because there's a lot of people that don't like marketing, will
Mm-hmm.
do almost anything not to. It's like, I just do such a great job. Like that should be enough. And word of mouth. And I'm a huge fan of word of mouth. Like that's how I built my business. But you have to bring those customers in the first place. But you have to be doing your marketing, especially like I work with a lot of tradespeople. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I have to hammer into them over and over and over again, because when they typically have busy seasons, so they're on the tools and they're working and things are really really good, and I'm going, I don't have any time to market. And then as soon as that busy season is done, they're going, I've got nothing to do. Oh, then they go into panic mode. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like driving your car either full out on the gas or slamming on the brakes. And then they wonder why their vehicle's breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 27 different ways to market. You don't have to do all of them. In fact, don't do all of them, but you do have to find like the 2, 3, or 4 things that work for you and your business and your personality and do them consistently. 365, like day in, day out. It's constantly putting that effort in. So the marketing, and then the other one that I will pick on.
So let's dive deeper a little bit on the marketing side of things because I've worked with a number of businesses that are exactly like you described. It's like, oh, I've got so much work, I can't take on another client. And then just a few months later, it's like, hey, I could take on a bunch of clients right now. The well is dry. What's a couple of tactics that you recommend that when you are in the throes of like the busy season, everything that you're doing, like your schedule is already full? What are some things that people can do to still make sure that marketing is getting out the door and that they're at least bringing in some new leads that they can follow up with?
Well, I'm a huge fan of coming and doing the planning and being aware because we can't go flat out all the time. There are the ebbs and flows. So when things are quieter, what are
Mhm.
you doing? And because there's so much stuff that you can be doing in advance and having schedule, especially because like when I started my business, social media didn't exist. Like
Hmm.
it did not exist. I think MySpace came into like being like within the first year or two afterwards, but like I had to do mine all the old fashioned way. Now I have met so many, like you and I connected through Facebook,
Uh-huh.
and I have met wonderful people through Facebook. I picked up clients through that, and then we have Instagram, and we have TikTok, and we have LinkedIn, and all of this stuff. This can all be scheduled. Like I'm a huge fan, and I use this all the time. Like these wonderful old fashioned paper calendars. And I
What
say,
is that?
print them out, get your handy dandy pencil and lay out a year in front of you and think about, okay, what are the things that I could be talking about? What are some videos or blog posts or subjects? Like I've got a client who's running a very successful dog daycare and grooming business and stuff like that. And one
Hmm.
of the things we've taught her to do is, okay, lay out. So one of the things that's coming up now, we're getting into spring. You have to be aware of ticks. So she's putting together all sorts of information on, okay, how do you protect your dog and ticks? What are the things to look for in areas? What are safe things? Okay, the importance of grooming. And so she's gone through and she's laid out so that when she has quieter days, or we'll take a day on a weekend, or when she's got it, and we plan it out so that this stuff, even if she's like completely up to her eyeballs and she doesn't have time to do it, it's still going out. It's still going out because she's scheduled it, she's planned it, and it's not done. Oh, it's a panic. I have to put something together. It's planned and it all flows. And you can do that with everything. So it's like, how am I using my time? Which goes back to the first thing I was talking about. Am I
Yep.
doing the stuff that is effective, that's going to be moving my business forward? And not just in the next 90 days, but in the next 180, the next year, because
Hmm.
you want to be planning. I plan on being in business for the next 10 years. So I need to be looking at that entire time frame because so many people are so like they've got the blinders on and they're not seeing so much of the picture because they're reacting like the ball in the pinball machine and wondering why they're bruised and confused.
Yeah. I love the fact that you brought up, the print calendar, the paper calendar and the pencil.
Mhm.
Every single week, I'm all digital, with all of my calendars, and I use Notion as kind of my task list, and things like that. But every week, when I'm planning out my schedule for the next week, and I do block scheduling, so I block out times on my calendar for specific activities, but it always starts with pencil and paper. I have,
Yeah.
little sheets of paper. I just draw lines and I put the 7 days of the week on there. And then I take a pencil and I write down, okay, these are the top activities that I'm going to accomplish on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. And then I plug them into my calendar of this is when I'm actually going to do them. So I love the fact that you mentioned that. And another thing that I do, I've done this for I don't know how many years now, but generally every fall, I will take a weekend away from my business. And so, like this past year, I went up to Indianapolis Thanksgiving weekend after the holiday stuff was done on Thursday. I went up to Indianapolis, got me a hotel room with a nice view, and I just sat in that hotel room practically all weekend from Thursday through Sunday, and I use that to map out my 2025 because
Hmm.
now I was away from all of my distractions. I only had my laptop. I had a couple of books that I wanted to use for kind of inspiration, and then I had my stack of paper. That way I
Yep.
could just write things down. And it's so productive when you're able to do that. And like you said, you're not in that panic. It's like, oh crap, I got to get that social post out. I've got to get that email out because you've got it planned and maybe even already done weeks, maybe even months in advance.
Yeah. And the reason why I say like print out the year on the big calendar and plan it and use the pencil because best laid intentions where, but if you're going, okay, my tradespeople, okay, they know that people need stuff done at this time, and they're going to be busy on the tools. Well, you can't be planning, well, I'm going to sit and do my month's worth of social media planning in the busiest time of year. But so it's like, okay, I want to be planned and prepped for this and move things around so that you're not biting off more than you can chew, and then you're setting yourself up for failure, so you can look things around, because a lot of people will say yes to things or no to things without being aware of the reality. Where if
Mhm.
Because most people are very visual, the more simple and the more visual you can make it, and then
Yeah.
you can have somebody come and take a look and see the stuff that you missed. I'm an excellent editor for anybody but myself, just like
Yeah.
everybody else,
Yep.
because my brain knows what it's supposed to say and it will fix it in my head, so I can't even see the mistakes. So you have somebody else come, how come you can't spell the word "we" right? Oh, right. Because my brain fixed it. I couldn't even see it. So you can
Yep.
have other people take a look and help you fill it in. And then once you've got it figured out, like you said, then I'll put it into my calendar and my digital to-do list and all of this stuff. But when you're planning it, visual, simple, and then move things around.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the fact that, we've talked about, focus on the activities that are really going to move the needle in your business. Obviously, marketing is important because we always need to be attracting new leads. What's the third area that is really
The
important
third
for
one
you?
that I'm going to pick on is one of my favorites, and it's systems.
Okay.
Systems are what make it a business rather than a job that owns you.
So true.
So I'm a big fan of smart, ambitious, and lazy. Because you want people that are smart because you can come up with dumb systems.
Yep.
You want ambition because we want more. We want to grow our business and all this stuff. And lazy. I would rather put in 10 hours in advance, get it done properly, figure things out, nitpick it, put it together, and then it takes me 30 seconds going forward. And I've done that for years. And so there's so many different little things that we can systematize, and that's always going to evolve as well. Like systems that I built like 23 years ago, I still have the basic concept of it, but how it is done has changed so much because of the digital age and how software and abilities and all this stuff has changed. So we're constantly updating, but I don't want to put more time and effort and all this into stuff that is just rote. Let's systematize it. Let's get it done so that I could do more and make more money and spend less time working on like boring crap.
Yeah. And systemization is so important for growth because a lot of people, when we start out in business, it's just us. We're that solopreneur. And so we do everything. We have it all up here in our heads. We know exactly how everything's supposed to get done. And, somehow magically it happens, even though we may kind of like forget some things, like magically it happens. But if we want to grow, we bring in employees, we bring in contractors, VAs, whoever that is, and we need to start outsourcing. If we don't have a system in place, it's going to be a disaster. We
Mm-hmm.
can't delegate if we
Yeah,
don't have those
you can't
systems in
delegate,
place.
you can't grow, you can't outsource, you can't do any of that because, like you said, everything's in your head and nobody can crawl in there for you.
Yeah. And with systems, I love the fact that you brought in the fact that, ultimately it is going to save you time.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
now when
money,
you're
you can
building
make
that
money.
system, it gets like, oh my gosh, like I'm putting so much time and energy into putting this system together. And yes, there's a lot of front end work that needs to happen. But once you've got it in place, now you've got the freedom that you can then, I mean, it's going to fill up with something else or something else
Mm-hmm.
that you need to be doing. But even if you want to take a day off, now you can have that breather room because the system's actually working for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
And just recently, just kind of speaking to that. So with this podcast, I was doing a lot of manual outreach. I was, talking to people and then they'd reply back to me on by email or social media. And it's like, yeah, I'd love. And then I'd be sending a link and, blah, 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 all this back and forth. And it was just taking up so much time.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I was like, I've got automation.
Yep.
I've got systems. Like, I just need to take a day, pen and paper again, pencil and paper, map out what that flow looks like, and then just go build it. And
Yep.
now that I've done that, like getting people to be guests on my podcast and getting them scheduled and all that type of stuff, zero effort,
Yeah.
zero effort on my part. And it's so much, it's so nice to have that off of my plate because they don't have to worry about it. And that automatically eliminated 2 tasks every single week on my to do list.
And you're able to provide a better, more consistent experience for your guests
Yeah.
and for your listeners.
Yeah, it's amazing what what systems can do, and I hear you that so many small businesses get caught up in the day to day instead of taking the time to build the systems that are really what's going to allow them to thrive, beyond that initial year.
Well, and what breaks my heart is so many, like I've come across so many people, okay, they've been in business for the 5 to 10 years. They made it through the tough spot and they're really good at what they're doing and they're
Hmm.
giving up. Why? Because they're exhausted. Because
Yeah.
everything's in their head and they have enough general skills and they work hard enough and they're putting in the hours and all of this stuff. And I call them my professional plate spinners because they're running around and they're spinning all the plates. And as long as they can keep up that energy and keep those plates spinning, everything looks good. But the moment they need to take a break, like they can't take a sick day, they can't take a vacation day because everything is them and they have to do it all. And then it comes crashing down where the systems, even if you only want to be a one person shop, which is perfectly fine. Do you want to work 18 hours a day or do you want to be making more or the same amount of money in 6 hours a day?
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned earlier that, basically if you go into business for yourself, but you don't have systems in place, you've just created a job for
That
yourself
owns
because
you.
you can't get away from it.
Yeah, you can't quit. It owns you. At least if you have a job and you're working for somebody else, you can tell the boss to go pound sand. When you're the boss, pounding
It's kind of
sand
hard
is
to do
not a
that,
good thing.
right? You can tell him that, but it's probably not going to pay off very well, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
well, awesome. Well, I know that, like those are, three very key areas there, and you've got 8 areas that I'm sure that, that people really need to hear more about. And we are getting close on our time here, but, this has been a great insight into, just kind of the challenges of what small business owners and entrepreneurs face and how to kind of like get through some of those. And I know you've got a resource that you'd like to offer our listeners. Tell us a little bit about that and how they can get that from you.
So I put together a few years ago what I call the solopreneur self-assessment. It takes just a couple minutes to do, and you don't have to share it with anybody else, but it helps figure out where you're strong because everybody has some strengths, where
Hmm.
you're weak because we all have weaknesses, and the most important stuff, the stuff you don't even know you need to know, and figure out, like I said, where do you need the most help in that. And you can get that for free off of my website at ksabusiness.ca/gift.
All right. Awesome. Well, Tammy, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed having you as a guest. I can tell, you are passionate about, those small business owners who are getting started. But as you mentioned, you've worked with a number of businesses that are, well past that 2 year mark, but they're kind of still in that stagnant space. They can't figure out how to get out of those early stages of growth. So appreciate you coming on today and sharing your insights. Everybody, make sure that you go get your complimentary solopreneur self-assessment, ksabusiness.ca/gift. We will make sure that link is in the show notes as well in case you're not in a place where you can write that down. And if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, check out my book, Hit the Inbox, at hittheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.